So let's look at some news stories. So Clippy, some of you have been in this business for a while will remember Clippy, Microsoft's Office Assistant. This is going to be the new Clippy. They've created this voice character that bounces around with emotions to be your AI assistant. And one thing I know about Clippy is everybody hated Clippy, except me. I found Clippy very useful. I didn't care at all about the animation, but the helps page was very useful. And I was working with Microsoft Office a lot, and I became known for knowing how to answer any question about Microsoft Office because I would use Clippy and they wouldn't. But anyway, this thing looks like everyone's going to hate it, I bet, being too cute and annoying. But anyway, that's going to be the avatar for the AI, which also a lot of people don't want. So because the government is shut down, all the federal food programs are going to stop, like SNAP. And so in 25 states, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program will run out of money and stop soon. So in California, Governor Newsom has deployed the National Guard to run the food banks. And he's going to use state money to fill it in, at least for a while. Seems like the right thing to do. So there was a big study to see how well AI assistants summarize news content, and they find that they get it wrong about half the time, everywhere. And they found that in particular, the worst of all is Google's, that gets it wrong 3/4 of the time. And here's various things that go wrong. And yeah, Gemini is the worst, with being wrong 76% of the time. So that's pretty bad, and this is what I say. There have been a lot of studies showing that people that deploy AI in companies generally find that it is really bad and does really bad work, and they have to be correcting it and hiring people back and everything. It's not a replacement for a human, which people are still in the process of discovering. So Trump's tearing down the east wing of the White House after saying about 2 weeks ago that he wouldn't touch it. And he's building a giant ballroom, which I highly doubt anybody wants. But anyway, he rather than using federal money, he got a whole bunch of companies to donate to it. And this is more of the federal corruption, just like the oligarchs that were at his inauguration behind him. Now, all these people have been pressured to donate to this ballroom, and I'm sure they felt like they couldn't say no. And I'm sure they all expect favors in the form of government contracts and such. So, there's a reason why we have a normal process of funding things and oversight in Congress and all. At least we used to, back when we were a democracy. Now that we're a dictatorship, he just does anything he wants, nobody says anything. And therefore everything's done by personal relationships. And people that do him favors, he'll do them favors. Now there's a new guy. Oh, he wants to pardon Diddy now. And after Diddy, Ghislaine Maxwell. So not only are financial crimes now legal, sex crimes are now legal, as long as you have enough money. I mean, he'll pardon anybody if you pass him $1 million. This is what Rudolph Giuliani did in the first term. He just sold pardons. He claimed to be a broker with Trump, which is true. Trump says if anybody near him tells him to pardon a guy, he'll do it. And so people take bribes to tell him, and then they pass part of the bribe on to him, and off you go. So we are in a period of spectacular corruption. And it's only the election in 26 or 28 is our only chance of ending this, I think. Although, to be fair, Trump seems to be very sick, and I imagine he'll be too sick to continue much longer. So that might end this. But until it's ended, we are a lawless, corrupt nation. And all of our allies and the other people in the world are making note of this. They are fleeing from the dollar. Gold is rising, although it fell recently. Gold rose a lot because everybody moved out of dollars into gold because they don't trust the American financial system anymore, and they're right. And our military and political allies don't trust us either, and they're right. And one of them recently announced they're not going to share intelligence with us anymore. Holland, I think. Others are probably going to follow. They're probably already doing it without mentioning it publicly because nobody knows what side we're on. Like a real important issue in Europe, which side are we on in Russia versus Ukraine? Nobody knows what side we're on. Nobody knows what the hell we're doing. We are not reliably on NATO's side anymore. So SpaceX was being used by the latest large farms of scam farms in Myanmar, using basically forced slave labor to call up Americans and get their money with romance scams and other scams. And the ISPs in that area cut them off, and the local law enforcement agency arrested them, but they're not very effective. It just grew. And they're all using SpaceX antennas, so that came out last week. So in response to the scandal, SpaceX has disabled their antennas, which is pretty good news. I mean, preventing them from getting on the internet would be one effective way to cut down their activities. All right, so there's a hospital in in Virgin Islands that has been shut. All their computers have been down for 5 months from a ransomware attack. So I mean, this happens. It also happens for quite a while to a big company in Europe, a trader. The problem, a lot of companies, when they get hit by ransomware, it is extremely difficult for them to rebuild everything. They don't have good backups and all that. It is a very common problem. And so they've been using pencil and paper, and they claim losing something like, $1 million a week or something for 4 months now, or 5 months, as they try to rebuild their systems. And I don't know what's news about this. I thought this had been going on for at least my entire life. The Russians and the Chinese send women over to seduce important people in America, and they will marry them and have children with them and all the time be agents of a foreign nation, leaking secrets out. This keeps on happening, in case anybody didn't know about this. And important people say they often have beautiful women trying to meet them, expressing interest in them for no apparent reason. And I thought everybody was warned about this, but I remember recently, maybe about 5 years ago, a bunch of generals fell for this. And Anna Chapman was the famous Russian underwear model that seduced a bunch of generals and got them to give them secrets. That's a fundamental weakness of men. Straight men tend to be very vulnerable to this attack. I really should be training our military to resist this, and maybe they are, but you're probably trying to resist a fundamental human instinct. Hard to really get through. Anyway, in case anybody, I've never been important enough for anybody to try to seduce me, but it shouldn't take a genius to figure out when some beautiful woman is chasing you. It's probably not that you're that great, but I guess, anyway, it still works. They wouldn't be doing it if it didn't work. And so OpenAI now has their free AI browser, which will surf the web for you. So it'll do things. This guy reports how well it works. He asked it to play a game and try to get a high score, and it sort of figured out how to play the game, but didn't do very well. Told it to make a radio playlist, and it, he talks about how things scanning emails and make a reference spreadsheet with the contact info. So this is the sort of thing you might ask it to do. And he's reporting, it sounds like it's sort of useful, but mostly pretty buggy, needs some help, and would make me pretty nervous since I know about all the vulnerabilities in AI, to have AIs connected in my browser like that. But this is certainly what a lot of people are pushing, these AI-connected browsers, in the hopes that we'll all think it's wonderful. And now they're becoming free, so we'll find more about how well they work. And so the OpenAI's version is called Atlas, and people have already demonstrated prompt injection attacks, which is the number one vulnerability of these things. And they're just saying, oh, it doesn't matter. You can just use it anyway, which is a strange cavalier attitude to take towards a serious security vulnerability, and we'll see what comes of that. Indirect prompt injection is where you feed in a prompt from an unexpected place, like an email or a web page. So you view a web page, the web page has hidden content that the AI sees that tells it to do something different than what you think is going on. And that's a real issue. And if a lot of people use AI browsers, this will be a major way to attack their companies and their personal lives. And if Microsoft rolls out their AI into Windows 11 everywhere, which is what they've said they want to do, then it'll be a new big way to attack whole fleets of Windows machines. So we can expect exciting developments on that front. And Google is finally porting all internal workloads to ARM. As we've been living through this for the last 5 years, since Apple brought out the M series, a lot of people like me are using ARM-based desktops. And at first, a whole bunch of software would not run on them. Now a lot of software runs, some of it in a translation mode, where it's running Intel software on ARM. But I've been predicting for 10 years that everybody's going to move everything to ARM because ARM processors are faster and they use less power and they make less heat. So logically, we should phase out all the Intel processors and switch to ARM, and Google is switching to it on the servers. So right now, almost all servers are still running Intel processors, but there are a few ARM-based servers available in the cloud, and we expect that to increase. So anyway, things are gradually moving forward, and I think it'll be better when it does move there. So let me stop.